a trauma and attachment report is to be clear, theoretically sound, and easily accessible to anyone who has any sort of interest in trauma and attachment. When we started thinking about publishing this report, we wanted to do it in a way that was easily accessible for everyone. And so we started looking at where people were going to find out information. And what we found was actually quite interesting. People were no longer going to their GP, their general practitioner, to find out information about mental health. What they would do is they would go online. They would go to WebMD, they'd type in their symptoms, they would Google what they were feeling and come up with a sort of pseudo-diagnosis. We realized this and understood that in order to get our message out to the people who wanted to know about it most, we needed to be where the people were. So as I said before, our goals are to be theoretically sound. We want the information to be accurate as well as correct in sort of the way that the paradigms of psychology is going. Easily accessible so that people can find out about it in a way that's easy for them and always available to them. And we also want it non-intimidating. We know that a lot of people, most people out there, they don't have PhDs. You know, they don't necessarily have university degrees. And a lot of people who may be interested in trauma, they may not even have a high school diploma yet. So we want to make sure that our articles are easily accessible in a way that they can read it, still understand the information, and still be interested in it. So how are we doing this? Well, our articles are short in length. They're about 1,000 to 1,500 words. We don't want people to be scared away by sort of dissertation-length papers where they stop halfway through and say, this is way too much for me to understand. We're conversational in tone, and we don't use intimidating or difficult jargon. Lastly, as I said, it's online and it's 100% free. We want the report to be 100% accessible to those who need it most. The victims of trauma, people who experience trauma in the aftermath on a day-to-day basis, their families and their loved ones, and then the clinicians and academics who support the research and the treatment of trauma. There are several different formats that we use in our articles, a variety of different ones, but I'm going to be outlining 3 for you today. Number 1 is the interview. We find that people, the interview method of conveying information is really excellent in a way that it provides sort of a first-person conversational tone to the article. They sort of feel like they're the fly on the wall in a conversation that's being had between the interviewee and the interviewee. And this does a couple of things. One, it provides a relatedness. People are able to sort of feel like they're sitting in on a one-to-one conversation. And number 2, a lot of times what we find in trauma is that people feel like they're alone in their experiences. They feel like they're the only ones who are going through what they're going through. No one else can possibly understand what's happening to me. And the interview method gives them a way to see, you know what, I'm not the only one who's going through. I can learn firsthand from other people's experiences. I can learn firsthand what other people are going through and sort of know that I'm not the only one. The second sort of article I'm going to talk about is our public resources article. It's where our writers go out to the community, they find out what resources are available to people and for mental health and support and that sort of thing, and then they report to our readers. There are so many fantastic things available out there for people to sort of learn about, you know, if they have depression, if they're considered thoughts of suicide, support lines, that kind of thing. But if they don't know what's available and they don't know how to access it, then it's of absolutely no use whatsoever to them. So what we do is we go there, we find out what they do, how they do it, how the readers can access it, and then we report to them about it. The last article that I'm going to talk to you about, and I'm just going to switch the slide there, is theoretical and research-based articles. We know that not all of our readers are necessarily people who've experienced trauma themselves or even clinicians, but academics, students who are currently doing a degree in psychology, researchers who are learning about information in the fields, and we want to make sure that there's a really clear, theoretically accurate foundation for everything that we're talking about. The really interesting thing that we found when sort of working out what articles we want to do, how to portray, is the fact that people are fascinated by arts and media and culture and how this relates to them and their experiences. It's sort of a natural human inclination to want to encompass art and music and poetry into their day-to-day workings. And we recognize this, and the articles that we've done based around these themes have had great response. So we work as much as we can to include and incorporate these kinds of things into our articles to sort of catch the reader's attention, get them interested, draw them in, and then also educate themselves as to how arts and media and culture can be used in their own healing and therapeutic processes. When we started the trauma report, we started it back in February this year, and then I set up a sort of analytic program that processed where the traffic was coming from and over the internet, where our readers were coming from. And the results were really encouraging. We've experienced a 66% growth in readership since April, which is when we set up the program. And our readers are actually coming from all over the world. We have readers from 38 different countries. Primarily it's Canada and the US, with the UK being number 3. But we've got readers from Greece and Israel and Egypt and India and Pakistan and France and Germany. And I was looking at these numbers like, that's really cool, because it means that our message is not only relevant to Canadians, which is where I'm from, but Americans and internationally as well, which is what we were trying to get. We want to be accessible to everyone. Another really interesting thing is where our traffic is coming from. 22% is direct. So they're just entering in our direct website into the navigation bar. 34% is from search engines, so they're entering trauma and attachment into Google. But 37% is from referring sites. And this is interesting because what referring sites are is they mean that they're on another website, they see the trauma and attachment report, they click on it, and then they're directed. And what was interesting about that was this: 50% or 56% of those referring sites were actually consisted of Facebook and Twitter. So we started a Facebook page. You can go on there to search the trauma report, and you can join our Facebook group. We post new articles, we encourage discussion, and we also started a Twitter feed. So we tweet about different things in the mental health that's going on today, historically, things of relevance, as well as we hook up with other people who have Twitter feeds and are also involved in the mental health community. Future goals for the report, but what we'd like to do is expand. We want to have this sort of magazine-style concept. We're actually launching an arts and culture page in the next couple of weeks that's dedicated solely to the use of arts and culture in therapy for trauma and attachment-related problems. We want to encourage reader requests. We're going to have a monthly book and film review, all sorts of things like that to keep people coming back. That's the main goal, is to keep people coming back. We want to, of course, use more media and visuals because we know this is important. We want to start reader discussion forums about Facebook, Twitter, and the main website. And we want to increase Twitter and Facebook following because we found that that's been really integral to getting people to know about the trauma and attachment report. So why is this important for you? Obviously, this is a really nice little publication, great articles that are interesting. But what it can do for you, if you're someone who's experienced trauma-related problems, it's somewhere where you can go to access resources, to find out about people who've had the same experiences, to find out what you can do in order to better educate yourself, and to find out more information about the problems that you may be having yourself. If you're a friend or a loved one of someone who's experienced trauma, it's someplace that you can direct them, as well as someplace that you can go yourself, because the main way, it's sort of a social problem. You need to educate and to heal yourself, as well as the person who has directly experienced that trauma. If you're an academic or a student, it's a place to find theoretically accurate-based articles about the themes of trauma and attachment. And if you're a clinician, it's somewhere where you can direct your clients to in order to better educate themselves, sort of an additional educational tool. We want to encourage discussion, we want to encourage research, and we want to encourage the healing process. If you want to contact us, please, to find us, just Google Trauma and Attachment Report. Will come up as one of the first, or our address is listed up there as trauma.blog.yorku.ca. Various emails, if you want to email any of us, we've got a direct email at trauma.report@gmail.com. Facebook, just follow us, Trauma's Report. Twitter, same thing, Trauma Report. And then both I and Dr. Muller have direct email addresses through York University should you want to contact us.